I'm a big numbers person, and I believe that numbers tell almost any story, and it's hard to overlook them, and it's also hard to dispute when you're looking at the numbers. And so I think a lot of times numbers overwhelm people, but when you look at some of the reasons that I'm going to suggest that we start thinking about a plan to start real estate investing. And y'all, I just want to encourage you, even if you feel like it's too late, or you're already rich and you don't need to do this and you don't want the hassle of tenants or whatnot, you're going to really love this class because we're talking also about how to save money in taxes through depreciation, which, by the way, I was in corporate America. I was in the Army right out of high school as a military police officer, and that paid my way through college. I graduated from Kennesaw State University. It's only Kennesaw College back then, but but I graduated with a business degree, and I started investing in real estate when I was working in medical sales. And, it was stunning to me when I got my taxes back the first time and started to see the difference that depreciation made, because I thought my accountant had made a mistake. I'm like, what happened? Why am I getting all this money back? And so depreciation, when you're working with not just luxury clients, but clients who are trying to get into investing, or you're thinking about being an investor yourself, I just think it's really important to understand everything we're going to talk about today. There's a lot of folks that have W-2 jobs, or or you have a spouse who has W-2 income. If you're solely in real estate, that helps both of you to be able to write off depreciation. So we'll be going into that too. We will also be looking at creative financing, and there will not be any talk about how to deceive people in financial options. But, a lot of times people think, well, I don't have enough money to start investing. And actually everyone on this call does, because you would be getting 3% back for any house that you bought because of the commission. So even though I know a lot of us, when we buy our own homes, we'll just take the money off of the sales price. But if you're going to start investing, it's best to still get it. And that way, every time you are buying a property, you're putting 5% down, and then you're getting 3% of that back. And so that's a great way to jumpstart. You'll see me share this a few times in this class, y'all. On one of the agent appreciation days a while back, I taught a class at the Fox, and it was every girl needs 3 rental properties. Today, I'm just going to say everyone needs 3 rental properties. Y'all, I do believe that with everything I've got. And we're going to go through here, and I'm going to show you why. I would just encourage you to jump in, and we're going to talk about how to do that step by step. Thinking ahead about what kind of investor you want to be is going to really help you sort things out and start to plan. And even if you've got some things that you need to take off your plate or do before you jump in and get started, at least this will give you a map to get there. When investors are getting started, they're typically looking for, some people are looking to flip a house, basically. They're looking for quick appreciation, something that maybe they can purchase today, fix up, or maybe a changing area and then sell it, or cash flow with little money down. And we're going to look at some examples today about ways to find those types of properties for yourself, or if you're working with investors. But just remember, it's really hard to find a property that's both of those, and so for my investor friends out there on this class, it's just bizarre, because a lot of times transitional areas where you can make the most money, or a house that we have to put a lot of money into to flip, those are not necessarily the best rentals, but it's a big opportunity to be able to put money in and then make money, within a month or two when you resell it. So, I would say, instead of saying, Michele, why should I invest in real estate? I would ask you, why wouldn't you invest in real estate? And what else are you going to do with the money? And so those of you that are in the stock market, even though I'm sure you've seen, we've all seen a lot of market fluctuations. And, when we think back about March of 2020, when the market crashed, of course, that was a great time to jump in. And we all knew that would come back. But if you're really looking at the indicators that typically will show which way the stock market is going, there's really not that many right now that are still linked, which is for me personally a little scary, just because you can't really look at the normal market indicators and guess, where the market is going. And I do believe the stock market has a long way down to go. But that just depends. A lot of folks don't know, but does anybody know how many stocks are in the Dow Jones Industrial Average for extra credit? How many, Charlene?
500.
30.
No.
30. Yep, 30. Can you believe it?
30.
Oh, hey, Charlene, your thing is S&P 500.
Yeah.
That would have been like a trick question. but yeah, 30. So y'all, have y'all ever thought about how and when those 30 stocks are switched out? Has anybody ever seen that on the news? Like on MSNBC, like when they say, hey, they changed out one of the 30 stocks in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. I've never seen that. So I just want everybody to remember how easy it is for that Dow Jones Industrial Average to go up or down, in just by switching out a company that the public is not made aware of. So I always like to just think about the back end of that when we're thinking about investing and how to jump in. Y'all, we don't have to get tissues out to go into this deeply, but real estate commission reductions. Has anybody seen that out there right now for buyer commissions? When a lot of companies are starting to offer less than 3%, going down to 2.5% to 1.5%. I mean, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could go down that road, but we'll keep it on a positive note. But we're really, I know, we're looking for other ways to make money, and these are reasons that we're doing that. 401k, if you keep up with the news, 401k has been attacked several times. One has just been over the last few months where the government has discussed using 401k, of different people at different income levels to cover some of the government spending and programs. And so, I'm not a huge fan of 401k because 401k has to qualify in different areas to be called a 401k. And that includes government bonds, which I'm definitely not a fan of right now. Corporate America retirement. If you are in corporate America and you do get to retire, I would say yay you, because there's not a lot of that going around anymore. There's bank of if you're looking at the bank, y'all, does anybody here keep CDs, like certificates of deposit, at the bank? Okay, I want to encourage you to do something this afternoon after we get off this call, this Zoom class. And I'm sorry and don't want to alarm you, but about 4 months ago, so I too have been doing CDs over the last year. I didn't go back into the stock market after, I rode the wave up and, after March, and then I got out and I went into CDs. So did you know, so Lori, you're in CDs? Okay. So it was in like 2.25. Is that around what yours is? So they've been about 2.25, but do you know what I did not realize is that they could make such a drastic change and not let you know. Did anybody know that on this call? Because I did not know that. Okay, I did not know. I did not know. Y'all, this is a live story. I mean, this is hot off the presses. So I literally went from getting $245, a month in one of the CDs to 17 cents. The same amount was in there. That is the drastic change that happened 3 months ago. So I just want to encourage you, if y'all are thinking about getting CDs, you want to put on your phone the annual renewal, because that's when they change it. And then if you go in, like if you see it and you're appalled and you go in there and say, give it back to me, guess what the amount is that they keep as a punishment? I mean, penalty. It is because they were going to charge me over $6,000 as a penalty when I found out I was only getting 17 cents. I was just like, holy cow. So yeah, so I'm off of that too. And then last but not least, let's think about inflation. Y'all, real estate investing is a way to keep up with inflation. Okay. There's not very many ways to do that as far really. And as Lori and I can tell you, it's definitely not from saving money at the bank. So it is, to guard against inflation, which we should all be concerned about right now. I think between that and the real estate commission reductions, I really think that, this deserves enough attention to think about, what if this is your time? What if this is your time to dive in? And so we're going to look at different types of investing today. And I just want to encourage you, no matter where you're starting today, sometimes you may look and say, oh my gosh, I don't have a lot of money in the bank. How would I even get started? Or you might say, I'm in credit card debt. How am I going to get started? Or I've got small kids at home. How am I going to get started? I'm going to answer all of those questions. So please know that everyone can do this. I just wanted to pull this picture up. This is where I grew up as a kid, and this is where I went to high school. It's in Woodstock. It's on Stockwood Drive, and I drove by it a few weeks ago, and I took a picture of it for this class because I just thought, you know what, it's so bizarre when you think back, on where all of us came from, and so many times I think we have to get out of our own way, and we have to allow ourselves to be successful and not feel guilty about, possibly what we are taking the risk to do that maybe other members of our family have not done, or maybe, your friends from high school are not doing anything like this, but we have to break out of that. And we've got to be able to see ourselves as successful if we're going to be successful. And I just, want to say, wherever we're starting from, it is definitely irrelevant. That has nothing to do with where you can be 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And y'all notice this is a 12 CD audio course. This is the infomercial that I saw back in the 90s. His name is Carlton Sheets. And admittedly, it was around 2 o'clock in the morning. I was in my 20s. And so anyway, I was living at Midtown Square in Atlanta. This is what got me into investing in real estate. I was in medical sales, and the market had just gone down. Okay. It was in the 90s. And this is like during the first George Bush time, as far as the president. And so I had just gotten my 401k statement from Pfizer, which was my first job. And y'all, it had gone down $800. And so in my 20s, I was like, $800, and that's still a lot of money. I just mean, it's 401k. I wasn't even going to get it till I was 59 anyway, right? But still, it was just so shocking. And I thought, oh my gosh, $800, that's crazy. And then my neighbors were moving out. And so when they're moving out, I said, oh my gosh, y'all, I didn't even know your place was up for sale. And they said, it wasn't for sale, Michelle, we were renting. And I go, really? I go, well, if you don't mind, can I ask how much you were paying for rent? And they said $1,200. Well, my mortgage was 808. I mean, this is at Midtown Square, down the street from the Fox in Atlanta. And so I thought, well, I think I'm just going to list my house in the paper. That's what we did back then to rent houses. There was no internet, back then, but it was, so I put it in there for $1,200. And all of a sudden, I got the Phantom of the Opera, the company, the Phantom of the Opera. Where I lived was down the street from the Fox. And at the time, there was only the Georgian Terrace Hotel there, and it was filled with the convention. And so they called and asked if I would accept 1.5 times what I was asking for rent, and only rent it to the Phantom of the Opera for 6 weeks. And would I leave just a few mattresses and utensils and plates in there so that they could put some of their actors in there, since it was close enough to walk to the Fox? Well, of course, I've seen this infomercial and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it's happening. It's happening. I'm a real estate investor. It's just like they said, no money down. And so anyway, so they rented my place for 6 weeks. And then another tenant had called and she said, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to move in for 7.5 weeks because I'm just looking early, but my other lease is ending." So I had back-to-back tenants. I bought a house in off of Lindbergh between and it was super old. It was a super old house, and it didn't even have heating and air in it, but it was during that transitional time off of Cheshire Bridge. And so there was a house and then a house behind it. And so all of a sudden I had three tenants within a 6 week period. So I'm going to challenge y'all as we get started in all of this, and we're really looking at what's available. What are you willing to do for 2 years to set yourself up for life? And that really is the question. And there's going to be some challenge, one big challenge here at the end. And I just want to encourage you to open your mind and say, what would you be willing, what lack of comfort, what would you be willing to give up over a 2 year period if you could set yourself up for the rest of your life? And so, we have to think about what would that feel like waking up in the morning and literally not thinking, giving a second thought to where our mortgage or car payment is coming from. Because what if your rental overage covered every bill that you have? What would you do? And so, we have to think about that. And the way to get there, we've got two options. We can either play now and pay later, or pay now to play later. So I just want to encourage everybody to get on board. We're going to go into lifestyle choices. Do we, are we folks that do we borrow and spend, or do we save and invest? Because we've got to be the save and investor to make this work. But it doesn't have to be forever, but it is a mindset that anybody can adopt at any time. And real estate, again, is just really not a get rich quick program unless you won the lottery. it's investing, and it's definitely the long game, but it does not take long to get up and running, and then you're set. So let's just go ahead and dive in. And I'm going to take questions in just a few minutes. I broke the class up into segments, but let's just talk about for a minute, what is a great investment? Whether we're working with investors or we're thinking about this for ourselves. I broke the class into 3 main types of investing, and we're going to dive deep into each one of them, just talking about how to use each one as far as taxes, how to use each one to get to the next step. And when I say the next step, how many people have read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki? So yeah, I'm going to put a picture of that up before long, but do take a picture of it. I mean, I would encourage you, if you have not read that book, it is a life changer. It is a life changer as far as investing, and will bring crystal clear what we're going to talk about today. But we're going to call for the rest of the day. So if you're doing something else, I'm going to ask you just to dial in for just a second, because for the rest of the class, we're going to refer to investor A. Investor A is a person that buys a house, and then they put money into it, and then they list the house for sale. Okay. So investor A is a person who flips houses, and investor A is going to be a certain type of opportunity that we'll reference during this class. And so let's just say that investor A sees a house they can buy for $250,000, and then they could put $100,000 in it, and then all of a sudden for it to be worth $450,000. Okay. And so really, if it's worth $450,000, and then investor B is a landlord. A landlord, I'm using $300,000 as a house throughout these examples in our class today for a house that is decent, that you could still get $1,600 plus a month for rent. And we're going to discuss the benefits of being a landlord and how long it takes to pay houses off. But we're also going to look at the depreciation and appreciation that comes along with being investor B. And then investor C, y'all, it doesn't matter who you are. And even if you're 19 or 20 years old, everyone on this call can be investor C. Okay. Everyone, because We can all move into a house and do light renovation, which includes painting the cabinets. Y'all, I mean, you don't even have to sand the cabinets anymore. Does anybody remember back in the day when we all had to sand cabinets before we could paint them? Now you can just paint the sand kills on there and you don't even have to sand them anymore. So, I mean, there's no reason that we all can't do that. But let me tell you what it requires. If we're going to be investor C, and I'm going to call out everybody on this call that's in your 20s. Okay. And if you don't have kids, you better get your game on investor C. Okay. Can I tell you why? Because investor C, only if you're willing to move 3 to 4 times over the next 2 years. Yes, you heard me right. If you will move 3 to 4 times, you will have 3 rental properties that you paid 5% down for legit. Okay. Legitimately. It is not lying to the mortgage company. You got 5% down. You moved into the house, did light renovation, and then you moved again and you started renting that house. Okay. Y'all, how many on this call are landlords or have been landlords? Okay. So Belinda, I know we were just talking about this. But how much easier is it to rent a house when it's staged with your cool stuff in it? Okay. I mean, when you've got nice art on the wall and, you've got it all cleaned and everything, as opposed to it just being empty, y'all, it's just like selling a house. It's a lot
so much
easier.
better. And you save all those pictures and get professional photography done and then save them. And it's fabulous.
Preach, girl. That's exactly what we have to do.
Sell to, first time buyers, people buying, small houses over around, Emory and Medlock Park over there off of, Northwood Hills Road. And when they got ready to sell, everybody said, oh yeah, don't you want to be the listing agent? And I said, no,
I know.
I want to be the buying agent and you're going to keep this house and you're going to rent it. And they have thanked me till the cows come home because they all own these houses and they were in there, out of college. Some of my tenants out of Athens, called me and that's how it works. And that is so true, Michele. Thank you.
I thank you for sharing that, y'all. And I just want to encourage you, all of these stories that you're going to hear today. I mean, y'all, these are all people that we have been in the game and we have done it. And this isn't from a book that we read. This is our life. So I mean, you can learn so much and just learn from our mistakes as opposed to having to jump in. Hey, you guys are going to like this. Today we're going to do a few 5-minute breaks once we start taking these, and that way we can take a few bathroom breaks as we go, but that's when we'll jump in and really ask for questions and take the long answers too. And listen, I want to encourage all of y'all, if you get all jacked up and excited and you just want to jump in or even just have one-on-one conversation or time, please don't hesitate to reach out to me because I love to help people be successful. And I can't tell you, just like Belinda, Belinda, doesn't it makes your heart so happy, because some of those folks, that were graduating from college and they thought it was going to be a big pain to rent the houses. And they're like, oh, but what if a tenant doesn't pay rent 1 month? It's okay. We're going to go through that. We're going to address that. But do y'all know that these people, now, I mean, my gosh, they've got kids of their own. And those houses that Belinda talked them into keeping instead of selling for today money is now putting their children through college because they're paid off. And yes, I mean, y'all, it's true. I mean, I know I get all excited about investing, but just, I'm talking about this from a true place. And y'all, listen, if you work with me in my office, look, my staff is going to start writing amen over here in the comment section. But I mean, the folks, when you come on board here, and if you don't have a house, I mean, really, we talk about it every month. You think about getting a house yet? so you just know, I believe it, but it's because it's awesome. It's a great opportunity. And even in the bad times, just don't sell during the bad times. I mean, it's okay. It's going to come back. I mean, it's going to come back. And I'm going to show you that with a whole bunch of numbers today. But this is what we have to remember. Is the same investment good for investor A, investor B, or investor C? No, it is not. And we're going to go through why that is when we dive into investor A first. Because here's the thing, investor A may be buying a house for 250, putting 100 in it to make it worth 450. Those sound like really good numbers. But here's the thing. What if you don't have 100 to put in it? What if you don't have $100,000 available on your credit cards, to do the work for the house that needs it? Then investor A, that can be a great deal all day long. But if you don't have the money to fix it up, then that's not the best deal for you. But, investor B, the thing is, how do you get to be investor B where you're buying 3 rental houses? Because that's the takeaway for this meeting today. I want everybody to want 3 rental houses, just because it's the right thing, whether you're a single parent, whether you're retired, whether you're talking about this with your grandkids, y'all, investing, it changes your life. So we're going to take a 5-minute break right now. And I'm going to go ahead and answer questions when we come back on. And so if anybody has anything that you want to start off with, then please type it in there and we will get started in about 5 minutes. Linda, thanks for jumping in and sharing.
Hey, Michelle, a lot of people had the Carlton Sheets CD set. A lot of people chimed in saying, I know where I've seen that before. So
it was so funny. Y'all, I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking in the 90s, that's the only picture of it that I could find. But I was thinking, was it really CDs or did I get the cassette set? Mine may have been. I know it was after 8 tracks. Okay, it was definitely not 8 track, but it could have been a cassette series that I had. But it's exciting.
It was definitely cassettes.
Okay,
Definitely
that's what I was
cassettes.
thinking in the 90s. Exactly. Because I was thinking it was around 1994, and
Yep.
so I'm thinking I really think it was cassettes.
Yes.
It wasn't CDs back then. But that's
Is it
all I
worth
could find.
listening to though? Is it worth getting it?
Well, this is the thing. You know what the point is, really? Y'all, I was in medical sales and I've been a military police officer in the Army. I was not an investor. I didn't have a real estate license.
Right.
And so you know what the point of it is I saw an infomercial at 2:30 in the morning. I may or may not have had quite a few adult beverages out with my friends when I came home and saw it. And I'm watching all these people on this infomercial, because it was like a 30-minute, infomercial. And they were saying, well, I only had $1,200 in my bank account and I bought this quadplex, and I've got 4 tenants now and I'm making $2,500 a month overage. So I'm watching these people say this on this infomercial and I'm thinking, well, I have $2,000 in my checking account. I mean, could I do this? I mean, seriously, this infomercial made me think, well, gosh, if these people can do it, because and I love, in Carlton Sheets commercials back in the day, it would say on there, these are actual stories from actual people who did it. But y'all, I started doing it before I even got those cassettes in the mail. I mean, I literally called on Sunday and put my townhouse in the paper. And I mean, can you imagine though? So I'm in medical sales, you know what I mean? So I'm in medical sales and I see this infomercial and I call and I go, well, why wouldn't I just list it? So what? So what if nobody calls? What if nobody calls? But I put my townhouse in the paper for 50% more. I mean, I'm in my 20s. Okay. I mean, it was if my mortgage payment was, I still remember, $808, and I listed it for $1,200. And then I had and then the Phantom of the Opera gave me, $1,200 plus 50%, for the 6 weeks up front, which gave me enough money to buy the next place. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, it was crazy, but that's what I always said to my friends. They're like, when did you start doing this? Like in 6 weeks, all of a sudden I've got 3 tenants. And I go, I saw this infomercial and I just put my place in the paper. And they're like, what? I mean, what are you doing? And so that's really the way I got into real estate. But the reason I like to share that is just because it doesn't matter where you are right now. It doesn't matter if you have experience or not. We're all able to do this, and we don't have to be an expert or have experience being a landlord to become one. or, and y'all, back in the day, I'll share this when we come back to, but back in the day, there was no YouTube. So do you know how I learned to tile and hang sheetrock and light plumbing and electrical? Terry, I went to the Home Depot classes on the weekend. They used to have on the big Home Depot classes on the board. I mean, seriously, I mean, that's literally how I learned to do all of the stuff, as far as renovating a house, was going to Home Depot classes in person and sitting there to learn. Now you can just watch it on YouTube while you're doing it.